Good afternoon, Newsport readers. Joining me now is a South Aussie visitor, Kath Duncan, who's up here for a few days with her sister Jenny. And Kath, we thought we'd talk to you. Being the Queensland Year of Accessible Tourism, you've made your way up to Port Douglas, and it's thought it'd be interesting to gauge your feedback and get your insights into the facilities we have here on the edge of 4 Mile Beach, just in regards to those with mobility issues and access. Just gauging your thoughts, reactions and feedbacks as you try and simply do something as simple as enter a beach area. If we could just start to move along. You're sitting here at the moment, so what are your, as you sit here close to the ramp, what are your initial reactions before you even kind of try and hit the beach? Like, what are you making of the ramp and the kind of access down to the beach?
So the ramp itself looks like it's a really good gradient, and that would suit me. Probably going down but also coming back, but I am using an electric wheelchair, so it might be trickier for people who are pushing someone else. But if you know ahead of time that there might be some issues pushing back up, then you can plan for all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, what type of assistances or things are you looking out for that makes an area like this really, like a really successful area for people with mobility issues? Like, kind of, what are you looking at?
Well, it's the slopes. It's not only the slope from top to bottom, but it's also a side-to-side slope, which, of course, some footpaths are a bit dangerous. But no, this will work. Well, this works well. It's got a gradual slope on it. It's given a couple of ramps. But I can also see the matting down at the end of the ramp.
Yeah, no, you flagged that. Yeah, you talked about. Can you just explain to the readers? You've seen the mat. If we start to make our way down, just onto the ramp, just over to the ramp, wherever you want to go there. You've talked about how the matting over there isn't as potentially long as what
I imagined.
Yeah. And if you talk, in the reason for the why you'd request the extra long matting, obviously, is because soft sand, you need, like, obviously a bit harder to access the wheelchair further on that soft sand. So
that's right.
that you take the matting onto the hard sand, and therefore you can get closer to the water.
That's right.
Something as simple as that. So here's if you could just take us through that. So there's the matting you were talking about. So that's about 7, 8, 9 meters, somewhere like that.
And I can't tell if I'm heading straight onto soft sand.
Yes.
But it looks like I am. This gradient would also be a challenge for someone pushing someone up.
Yes.
That way, whereas the ramp is doable. But it's quite a steep slope. But you've got to be pragmatic. Not everything is going to be super easy. But if you have knowledge of maybe a gradient, if you're looking up 4 Mile Beach, and it says got access and it's such and such a gradient, then in your head you can plan for all that. Yeah. You know what you're getting yourself into.
Sure.
Yeah. Access is too broad.
Yeah, sure, understood. So is this something that now you're here and you see the mat, and so are you thinking I'll go down there, or is this going to prevent you from actually even trying? Like, how do you foresee your next move? Like, what?
Well, I will go to the end of the ramp.
Yes.
And I'll have a look.
Right now, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Yep. Just showing those what could be improved or what could be better. So, if you need my assistance at any time, please let me know. Okay. So here you are, and right there's kind of soft sand. So
I'm unsure about if I would get across that.
Yes.
And I've got quite broad wheels.
Yes. And it's about another 10 metres or so to that harder, that harder
sort of
sand.
Hard there, doesn't it?
If we go out there, it's about another 10 metres or so to that really kind of wet, harder sand. But you have doubts whether you'll be able to get across from here on this soft sand.
I do, and I probably wouldn't try it because there's nothing. If I sunk into the sand, then potentially I'm damaging my wheelchair.
Understood.
Means my holiday is not the same.
And I mean, when you come to we've talked about this being the Queensland Year of Accessible Tourism. When you come to a destination like this, what's the simple goal? The simple goal is just simply to be able to go a fraction closer to the water, to soak it up and enjoy the atmosphere as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If I came to Port Douglas and there was nothing said about accessibility, fine, I'd know I wouldn't be going to the beach. But Port Douglas, this area has said it's accessible. So my expectation is I would be able to go to the beach and get in the water. That would be my expectation.
Understood. And now your sister Jenny has now got potentially an option here, which is a council-based wheelchair that takes you over sand like this. So that might be the option for you today.
Yeah.
So
And then what do I do with this?
Well, somebody has to babysit that for you, perhaps.
So I did ask for the Surf Life
Yes.
Saving Club, and there's a
Yes.
concrete path down the side, so we could leave it there.
Mhm.
But so you could get into this here, and then I could take your wheelchair up there and meet you here. So
If I may just interrupt, please, Jen. Jen, being the sister here, what's your feeling, Jen? Like, you're here, you'd obviously try and think about access issues as well in terms of mobility and stuff. Like, what do you make of, the facilities here and kind of how they could be better, different? Do you have any initial thoughts on?
I think they've. It's great. They want to do something. A big ramp. The slope is problematic, probably for people in a manual wheelchair, and this part is feeling a bit tricky because what do we do with an electric wheelchair? Assuming Kathy can get into this, and I could push Kathy, and there'll be people around that will help. That's not quite accessible, if you're relying on other people like that. But I think it's doable.
Would you give this, without being overly critical, would you give this a pass mark, or do you offer any how things could be better, or I mean, so far in terms of your own holidays, this is what's available to you, and so on and so forth?
If this mat, what do you reckon, Kathy? If it was 3 times as long or something and went to the hard sand?
If I went to the hard sand, it would be perfect.
So the initial feedback is the mat's initially a little bit short. Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
Ladies, thank you for providing access and chatting to us today.
Right.
Thank you.